We sincerely apologize for starting a few minutes behind time, but as always, this is Report Desk Africa, where we take you around some of the important and relevant stories that have made the headlines across the continent of Africa in the past week. We're still in the week, but we call it the past week because it's from Sunday up until Thursday. Today is not going to be any different. We'll be talking about some interesting stories that we, particularly News Central reporters or journalists, if you like, have covered in the week. My name is Bernard Akede. If you're watching for the very first time, you should know that I don't do this alone. There's a lovely lady beside me, and we rock this set together.
Yes, the very lovely lady indeed. My name is Blessings Mosugu, and it's another beautiful Thursday, another Report Desk Africa episode. And today's program, as always, promises to be insightful because we'll be taking you through stories making headlines across Africa. I mean, that's what reporters do. Okay, now we'll be going from the south to the west and, of course, to the northern part of the continent, missing out no detail on the trending stories. Today's report entails the role of Commonwealth in Africa's development. And also, we'll be talking about Tanzanian president celebrating her 1 year in office. It's really going to be insightful, so you don't want to miss out on these stories. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with reports and insight into the stories after the break.
Thank you for joining us. If you are just joining us, it is Report Desk Africa, and we did say at the beginning of the show that we have two stories today from the African continent. Now, during the week, I say the rest of the world basically celebrated Commonwealth Day. The Commonwealth Day, and this was largely celebrated by members of the Commonwealth states in Africa and across other parts of the world. Now, this is celebrated every year on the 14th of March, and this year, 14th of March 2022, was another day to celebrate the Commonwealth Day, giving member states an opportunity to celebrate the rich cultural diversity of each country while reminding themselves of the common ties that's connecting all the Commonwealth countries. Now, I personally was at one of the celebrations in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital, and it was indeed a display of cultures, colorful cultures. Let's take this report, and when we come back, we'll be talking more about the Commonwealth Day celebration. Comprising 54 member countries and a combined population of about 2.4 billion people, the Commonwealth of Nations is a political association of which almost all its members are former territories of the British Empire. Every year on the 14th of March, representatives of member countries gather together to remind themselves of the common ties connecting them and the various ways they all can benefit from one another. And in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital, it was indeed a display of cultures.
The significance is that we are all coming back together as a force. I want to use that phrase, as a force, to celebrate that unity, that oneness that we've had over the years.
As you look around here, you can see the diversity of cultures, the diversity of people, and that's what the Commonwealth stands for. And together we're working and striving for better governance, fighting climate change, and also becoming more inclusive in all the things that we do.
Member states have no legal obligation to one another, but are connected through their use of the English language and share similar struggles and challenges. But the representatives believe by working together as a group, a lot can be achieved in their individual countries.
We are gone talking. You wouldn't say there's one country who does not know what there has to be done. Everybody knows that the rule of law, governance, human rights are the basics in which each state is being formed. Now, where the Commonwealth comes in is just to reiterate, to show how important it is, so that we can learn from good practices. When we come together, it's just to say, we are here, these are the things we stand for. If you are not doing it right, this is an occasion for you to rethink and come back to where we started.
That what India did, that it got converted from a poor country to a rich country and a very efficient and very powerful country. The one line answer to that one is perseverance, continuously striving towards the perfection. So that is my advice to everybody, may it be country, or may it be individual, or may it be any organization. One has to do continuous attempt to see that you are nearing or you are going near the perfection.
As the dignitaries and representatives of the various countries enjoyed a display of cultural beauty, they were all enjoined to stand together in the face of multi-global crises, including the COVID-19 pandemic, which has claimed nearly 1 million lives in the Commonwealth, climate change and insecurity, amongst others.
What binds the Commonwealth together is our values, our approach to these issues based on human rights. I think the more we can work together to try and resolve those issues, together to try and build understanding, that's what we need to do. So more of what we're doing is what's required, and I think we really celebrate that.
Bernard Akede, New Central Lagos.
All right, there you have it. It really is a very beautiful thing to see. Celebration of culture in diversity, very, very colorful. And according to FM Ubi, it really is a force. I mean, different countries coming together, not just celebrating diverse cultures, but also celebrating oneness, also coming together to, prefer solutions to issues and celebrate generally. It really is an amazing thing to see. And now we'll be joined on RDA to discuss this. That's the Commonwealth celebration. As always, we'll be joined by our Ghanaian journalist, Noble Annan, a journalist with TV3 in Ghana. Thank you very much, Noble, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, you're welcome on the program. Now, Noble, we understand that the Commonwealth was established following the decolonization of a British Empire in the 20th century, as several territories gained independence or achieved greater autonomy. The Commonwealth consists of 54 member states, which includes the 19 African states, offering mutual support in development and upholding democratic values. Now, Noble, you are in Ghana and, you saw the celebrations of the Commonwealth Day. Can you tell us what the celebrations were like in Ghana?
Let's start with some brief, if you like, structure of the Commonwealth as it has been over the years. So it was often, seen as toothless and little more than a top pump during its annual summit, but it has been.
Okay, pardon me. Sorry to interrupt you, Noble, but could you help us turn down the volume of your device? There's an obstructing sound.
Turn down volume.
All right, go ahead, or with you.
Is it okay?
Oh, yes, fantastic.
You sure this is fine?
Yes, it's okay. We can hear you, so go ahead.
So I was saying, let's begin with a little background with how it has been so far. So when, since its establishment, it was seen as toothless. It was seen as just a talk and pump show during its annual summit. But the reality is that it has been providing huge, and these huge efforts that it is making are often unseen. They help and support the advice their members, especially those from Africa, which form a larger chunk of the population of the Commonwealth of nations. It has become an important factor in the continent's economic growth. On the day, to your question, it was as expected. From participants were excited. They entrusted the Commonwealth, and they still have trust in the Commonwealth to keep facilitating, keep supporting the efforts of Africa to be independent, to reach a certain level. The concern, however, like I mentioned earlier, is the willpower or the forcefulness. Oftentimes is seen as not being forceful enough. So that came up a little during the celebrations. People want to see more efforts, want to see more action, want to see the Commonwealth be more daring and leave the talk shop stage of the association.
Okay, Noble, can you hear? Are you there?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, thank you, Noble. We will need to take this very quick break. When we come back, we will still be on the topic. Coming back, I would like to ask you how relevant you think Commonwealth celebration actually is. Should we still be celebrating Commonwealth? Are we really benefiting? And by we, I'm talking about African countries. What benefits are we really enjoying from being members of the Commonwealth of Nations? But we have to go on this quick break. When we come back, Report Desk Africa does continue. Do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. This is Report Desk Africa. We had to go on that quick break to sort out certain things. Well, man can only be man, machine will be machine. But before the break, we were talking about the Commonwealth Day Celebration, which took place on the 14th of March, 2022, and across several countries that are members of the Commonwealth of Nations. Now, this celebration happens every year, and it's a day where member countries, bring back ideas of their cultural heritage, bring back what actually combines them, what joins them, what bonds them together, what ties them, what ties that these countries celebrate. Remember again that the Commonwealth countries are joined, by the fact that they were all members of the British Empire. Now, before we went on this break, we were speaking to a journalist from Ghana, Noble Annan, and he was telling us, what the Commonwealth celebration was like in Ghana. Noble, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still with you. Can you hear me now? Is the line clearer?
Okay, yes, Noble, it's a lot clearer. Thank you so much for being with us. Now, before the break, I was asking. Now, there's this school of thought that believe that the Commonwealth celebration or the Commonwealth as a body may have lost its what's the word I would use now?
Relevance.
Exactly, so to speak. And there have been questions asking what exactly are the member state countries or the member states of the Commonwealth benefiting from the body as such. What do you think? Do you belong to those who believe that there's not so much to benefit from the Commonwealth anymore? It has outlived its usefulness, and this might just be another form of neo-colonialism. What do you think?
Well, these are interesting opinions from different groups of people, and rightly put, they are not wrong. Each school of thought has its own reasons for believing the way they believe, for wanting to do things the way they wanted to do. For those who think the Commonwealth has outlived its relevance and should not be, regarded again, or if you like, should be disbanded if you like. They have their own ideologies as to why it should be like that. A form of new colonialism they're putting it. But the reality is that we cannot deny the effect that the Commonwealth has had on us. We cannot deny the positive, effect it has had on the continent in general, from financial assistance, providing the international platforms, boosting the image of the country, letting you access bigger market, common foreign currency, closer ties. There are a lot of benefits. The concern, however, is that a lot of people or nations, particularly for those who are against, observing the day, will be the lack of, if you like, efforts, that the Commonwealth is not upfront enough. The Commonwealth is not strong enough as it used to be. And that's rightly so. You see a form of, downgrade, let's go for the want of a better word, from how it was.
Hello, Noble, can you hear us? Okay, I think for some reason we may have lost contact or lost communication with Noble. We hope to get him back. And he was addressing the fact that, like the question I asked, has the Commonwealth lost its relevance? He was addressing the fact that it may not have lost its relevance. There are different schools of thought talking about the Commonwealth, and he was talking about some of the benefits that the Commonwealth.
He mentioned the financial benefits, the bilateral ties. But before he went off, I was about to ask him this question. So we know that these benefits exist. I mean, we can't deny the facts. We've seen these benefits. But the question still remains, have we seen these benefits recently? I think that's the reason why so many people have that school of thought that maybe it's lost its usefulness, because these are the reasons why the Commonwealth exists in the first place. So if we're not seeing these things recently, then probably, now many people are thinking it's just for the formality. We just gather, and celebrate the Commonwealth Day, and everybody goes their different ways. So what we should put into consideration is, if we're still seeing these benefits right now, I mean, in recent times, then that means that, it's obviously still as functional as it was. I think we have Noble back, so maybe he'll shed more light to that. Noble, are you there?
Yes, I can hear you. Sorry.
All right. So yeah, I was discussing with Bernard just now. You mentioned the benefits of the Commonwealth that are, undeniable, that we've seen over time. But the question remains, have we seen these benefits in recent times? I think the reason why those people, or so many people, have that school of thought that, it's lost its purpose is because probably we have not seen as much of these benefits in, recent years.
recent
What do you
times.
think about that?
Well, we're in 2022. Let's talk about the Commonwealth shared scholarships. We know about them. We know about the Commonwealth Games.
Yes.
These are very recent things, you understand? So, in as much as the benefit we want to see is not too huge, we're not seeing them in our faces, we cannot deny that we're still having benefits, we're still benefiting from the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth, they're helping us run elections, are they not? They're providing election support. They're supporting us with anti-corruption in dealing
Right.
with the natural resources, blue charter, connectivity agenda. There are a lot of benefits with the Commonwealth. The problem, however, will have to be with, if you like, managers of the organization to make it attractive enough to let the member states know that these are direct benefits that we're getting. Oftentimes, these benefits are somewhat, a little somewhere, and they're not felt often. But that does not take away the fact that even for now, today, we're still benefiting from the Commonwealth, however little it may be. It does not take away the fact that we're benefiting from the Commonwealth. It also should serve as a reminder, if you like, for, as I said, managers of the Commonwealth. And if I use managers very carefully, so they know that the trust people have in them is going down by the day, and they need to do something. So this is not only about gathering, remembering the day, remembering the past, looking at how beneficial it was years ago, decades ago. That is not how we should be again. We should
Right.
have direct benefits that we're not getting now, but it does not mean we're not getting anything at all now.
Okay. Thank you very much, Noble. I think at this point, I'd say I hope he has been able to convince and not confuse those who have, a different school of thought about the Commonwealth and its purpose. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Joanne, for joining us, Noble.
You're welcome.
Okay.
All right, and that's a wrap on the Commonwealth discussion. I don't know if I should say Happy Commonwealth Day.
Well, yeah, it's I believe you could say that.
Congratulations.
Yeah, Happy Commonwealth Day. It's still in order. Not forgetting that the Commonwealth doesn't just comprise of African countries alone. We have countries in the Caribbean. We have in Southeast Asia. We have likes of India, Indonesia.
It's basically
India,
worldwide.
Pakistan.
Yeah.
Yes, across the world, about 54 countries, if I'm not
54
mistaken.
countries,
Yes.
right.
And India has the largest chunk of the population of the Commonwealth nations. Remember, it's about 2.4 billion people, and India has more than 60% of that population. Not surprisingly, they're one of the most populated countries in the world. So there's also that. I would also like to see how not just the African countries now benefiting from one another, but also benefiting from other nations from other parts of the world that belong to the Commonwealth of Nations. There are some countries in Europe. There's some in the Caribbeans. And then of course there are those in Africa, and there's Great Britain as well. Itself. So looking at in terms of trade, in terms of government, like Noble said, there's education as well, and there's the Commonwealth Games that we celebrate and we participate in, from time to time. So looking at some of the benefits there, looking at some of the challenges, and then looking at how we can actually interconnect better, particularly in terms of governance. Some countries are more developed than others. Some are doing better in terms of governance and politics. Some are doing better in terms of education and trade and business. It'll be good to see that there's some kind of even flow of resources, of ideas, of knowledge amongst the Commonwealth countries, such that they all can, if possible, develop and grow together.
Sure, yes. It's been an amazing concept since inception. And, just like Noble says, we've seen a lot of things that they've done. And, hopefully a lot more things, like you said, different sectors, the financial sector, bilateral ties, basically. So, yes, hopefully we'll see much of that. All right, so that's it on the Commonwealth. When we come back, we'll be talking about Tanzanian president and her celebration of 1 year in office. Please stay tuned. You're still watching Report Desk Africa, and right now we'll be talking about Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan celebrating 1 year in office. I remember last week we were celebrating Women, International Women's Day, and we mentioned that it's going to be through the month. So we're seeing another form of it. This is a woman president who has, done Tanzania proud so far. I'm talking about Samia Suluhu Hassan, who assumed office as first female president of the country. Now, she was sworn in following the death of former President John Magufuli, who died at the age of 61 after a brief illness. Now, the president, however, introduced certain changes shortly after assuming office, such as laying emphasis on the country's economic diplomacy and the utmost need to review the country's attitude in the fight against COVID-19. I remember that story where, after so many months of inaction, she came up with different measures to tackle this virus. And the citizens are grateful for that. And, she's done a lot more things. So we're going to take a look at this report, and then we're going to talk about it shortly.
Kwa masikitiko makubwa nawajulisha kuwa leo.
On 17th March 2021, Samia Suluhu announced that Magufuli had died following a long illness after he disappeared from the public in late February. She was sworn in as his successor on the 19th March 2021 and will serve the remainder of Magufuli's second 5-year term. Upon swearing in, Suluhu became Tanzania's first female president, the second Zanzibari to hold the post, and the third Muslim after Ali Hassan Mwinyi and Jakaya Kikwete. Similarly, she became one of 2 serving female heads of states in Africa alongside Ethiopia's Saleh Work Zewde. Under the constitution, since she took office with more than 3 years remaining in Magufuli's term, if she completes this term, she will only be eligible to run for 1 full term in her own rights should she decide to stand at the next election. Shortly after assuming office, Suluhu initiated certain changes. The utmost need to review the country's attitude in the fight against COVID-19, in stark contrast to the skepticisms of the virus under Magufuli's tenure. Mandatory 14-day quarantine for travelers entering Tanzania from countries with the new COVID variants were imposed. Visitors were recommended to wear face masks, sanitize themselves, and practice social distancing. Suluhu permitted embassies and other international organizations to import vaccines into the country to vaccinate foreign nationals for their Tanzanian day-to-day work, aided by the Ministry of Health. On 28 July 2021, the COVID-19 vaccination started under her charge in Tanzania, with her receiving the first dose of the vaccine and urging all Tanzanians to get their jabs, saying the country is not an island. She equally harped on placing emphasis on economic diplomacy, a feat that saw her undertake crucial visits and meetings which were expected to influence the trading partnership with the rest of the globe. Going by the Bank of Tanzania data, the economic growth was 4.9% in the first 3 quarters of 2021 compared to 4.8% in the corresponding period in 2020. Data shows that this was contributed by construction, agriculture, mining and quarrying, manufacturing, transport, and trade activities. She has managed to create a friendly taxation system and reduce bureaucracy in the issuance of work permits and approval of investment projects, amongst others. Business experts believe there is no cause for alarm and President Hassan is taking Tanzania back on the right trajectory. In terms of internal politics, the Tanzanian president has recently met with top opposition figure Tundu Lissu in Belgium, a step suggesting Lissu may be preparing to return home from self-exile. The president and Lissu discussed various issues of mutual interest on the state of the Tanzanian nation, a move that has largely been applauded.
All right, there you have it. That was a report on Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan, which was put together by our very own Bernard Akede. Bernard, you put together that report, and so I'm going to ask you, what do you think about these reforms she's made over the last 1 year? I remember when she was celebrating 100 days in office, and she had already started doing lots of things, and people were like, it's too soon to tell because it's just 100 days, but now it's a year. So what do you think about these reforms and her position in office generally?
Yeah, truly. Like you said earlier while introducing this, I think it's quite interesting that this is coming in the month of the women, so to speak. So to all the women, congratulations.
Thank you.
She clearly has done well, going by several indices. Again, we must remember that she didn't exactly, contest for the position. She was the vice president, and then based on the demise of John Magufuli, would I say her boss as at then, she had to take up position, almost like what happened in Nigeria certain years ago when President Yaradua passed away and President Goodluck and the vice president then, Goodluck Jonathan, had to step into that position. Now, one thing that people must understand is no one prepares for times like that.
Sure.
Already, it's a huge, there's a huge vacuum that has been put there, and those shoes have to be filled. It's a huge ask of anybody. Remembering again, without trying to, what's the word now? Without trying to undermine the abilities of a woman, she was just stepping in there, going to be the first female president of the country. So the changes she brought in, first of all, looking at COVID, to speak. Remember again that John Magufuli, the late president, didn't exactly put in so much measures to tackle the virus as was happening in several other countries and in several other African countries. So when she came in, she had to address that first, which, she did her best to do, ensuring that the country was well protected as best it could be. Also, when it came to vaccination, she ensured that the vaccination process started when they could. They got vaccinated, and she was the first to jump on that vaccine, basically leading by example. So in terms of that, you can say that she actually took the bull by the horn, and she took on those challenges very, very squarely. Now, looking again at the economy, based on what we have in that report and other things, you can see that she also tried to set the country in places where it was open to as much investment as it possibly, could attract, such that they could boost the economy of the country. And actually, there was actually some kind of boost within the space of 1 year. It may not be seen as something that was, so humongous or significant, but when it comes to figures, 1%, 1.1% on the average, or in general, can actually be a huge, can create a huge change when it comes to national economy, which is exactly what we see here in Tanzania, basically. So again, like I said, there's a lot to there's a lot to examine or to judge her based on, but it may still be a bit too soon. 1 year, like you said earlier, 100 days. We said, oh, it was really, really soon. It's just 100 days. Now it's 1 whole year. There's still a lot of time. Remember that John Magufuli had about 3 years, over 3 years left of his second tenure, and in Tanzania, one tenure lasts 5 years. Had over 3 years, and she stepped in. So there's still a lot that he was doing that he had to do when he sadly passed away unexpectedly, and she had to mop up on that and still come with her own ideas because there was still a lot of time, to cover up.
To be honest, I think, it was 100 days then, and we're like, it's too soon. But, a year, I wouldn't say, of course, it's still soon. But looking at what you said, she wasn't ready for this position. And then it just came. And it's a case of you weren't ready for this. You didn't prepare for it. But you had to step up into the shoes. And then you did it, I wouldn't say excellently yet, because, it's too soon to tell. But most Tanzanians will tell you that, she is restoring hope to them. A lot of sectors, she has made major strides when it comes to key sectors like health, like diplomacy, and several things. And then talking about bilateral ties, she's doing everything she can to strengthen bilateral ties. Not too long ago, she visited Uganda. She also visited Kenya.
True.
And her visit to Kenya was like the first in how many years? Last time was 2013. That's from that country. So you see her trying to make, so many adjustments.
She was also in Rwanda, by the way.
Exactly. So I personally would applaud her efforts, and we don't know what is to come, but what we've seen is a good start, is a good leap, and we've seen, this is enough to tell you that she's making efforts to do something.
Definitely. And sometime earlier in the week, we had on one of our news programs, we had Honorable Zito. We had Honorable Zito Kabwe. He came on. He's a member of the Chadema party. He's one of the party leaders, as a matter of fact. And he came on one of our shows also talking about about 1 year in office of President Samia Suluhu Hassan. And here's part of what was discussed with him on the news.
Days of President Samia Suluhu Hassan, I said it was 100 days of freedoms. But After that, the leader of the opposition, of the largest opposition party in the country, was arraigned and incarcerated for 8 months. Now he has been released, and a number of reform initiatives are being conducted. So for me, it was 12 months or 365 days of hope. Where Tanzanians are freer, civic space is widening, people are free to air their views. Still, there are challenges, and these challenges have to be addressed through legislative processes, which haven't been done so far. So I call it a hopeful year. We hope that in the next 1 year, we will see the needed electoral and political reforms for the country to go back to its democratic dispensation. The biggest achievement President Samia has achieved is to bring back happy faces of Tanzanians, the freedoms, because this is something that Tanzanians lacked for the last 6 years. But now, Tanzanians are freer. People are free to express their opinions. They criticize the government without any fear. They criticize herself without any fear. But also the president has initiated dialogue between the opposition and other democracy stakeholders and herself. She, as you clearly said, she has already met Tundu Lissu, the former presidential candidate. She has met chairman of the largest opposition party in the country, Freeman Boy. Yeah. And in the end of the month, she's opening the largest, one of the largest democracy conference in our country through Tanzania Center for Democracy. So for me, as I said before, it was a hopeful year. The biggest achievement President Samia has brought, or that has been, we have recorded on her tenure, is the fact that the Tanzanians have hope once more.
Hope. He said her biggest achievement is the fact that Tanzanians have hope. And that is indeed a huge one. I would have told you the story of hope and why people always hold on to hope, but that's a story for another day. Maybe I'll tell you.
Your story or a general story?
No, it's a general story. It's a folklore, and it's from ancient Greek mythology. Okay. But I will tell you another day. But anyway, he said, Tanzanians have hope. And yes, truly, they do have hope if you go by her achievements in a short period of 1 year. And this just doesn't happen within the country. Now, before we went to take that report, we were talking about her achievements within the East African bloc and how she's visited certain East African countries, notably among them was Kenya. Yeah. You talked about that. She's also visited Uganda. And she's visited Rwanda. So clearly she has done quite a lot in East Africa, not just in her own country.
Yeah, she has. And the fascinating thing is, it's not just the things she has done that people are talking about. I mean, she's planning to do a lot of things as well. Our guest just mentioned that she is planning to open one of the largest democracy conference in the country by month end. So it means that she didn't just, line up a list of things that she's going to do in a year and, fold her hands. She's obviously still making, giant efforts towards making the country better, towards, extending their hands towards other countries, which is very important. That's why I keep stressing bilateral ties. And then talking about the things she's also going to do, aside the fact that this is a huge motivation for women in Tanzania.
Yeah, clearly, women I was definitely going to come on that one.
Including this woman.
I was going to come on that one, definitely.
Yeah, it is a huge motivation to women. Aside that, she's also making efforts to, we talked about women inclusion last week, last week. And then you'll see that she's making efforts for, along with every other thing she's doing, because, this is not about being feminist or anything, you're focusing on just gender inequality. But that is also one of the key aspects that she is trying to tackle, including women in politics, including women in so many sectors. And talking about politics, Bernard, she has met with Tundu Lissu.
Definitely. That's a huge one. I was waiting for you to ask me that. Anyway, clearly Tundu Lissu has been on self-exile from the country because of threats to his life. And he's been in Europe for a while. She met with him in Belgium. Now, before then, we actually had an exclusive interview with Tundu Lissu on the station here. Our colleague Benga Borowa spoke with Tundu Lissu, and he talked about, attempts on his life. He talked about why he was away. He talked about trying to reach the government of Samia Suluhu Hassan.
Yeah.
Her name is quite a mouthful. and eventually, I'm glad that those attempts to meet with her and her government have eventually yielded fruits.
Result, yeah.
And she was in Belgium to meet with him. Now there wasn't much revealed about what what they talked about in there. But basically, we know that they talked about trying to move the country better, and some are suggesting that this might just result in him coming back to the country after so long. If eventually he does come, that's a huge plus, for her when it comes to internal politics of the country.
They say women can handle things better than men. We're diplomatic and we are good like that.
And we are not going to argue that.
All right, that's it. We'll be looking next at forecast, looking into our crystal ball, like Bernard always says, to tell you what is hopefully what we're expecting to come in the coming weeks.
Okay, as is traditional on the show, we try to peep into what I call my crystal ball to see what we may be talking about in the coming week. Now, we are predicting Somalia. Now, Somalia misses deadline to complete its elections. Now, the country has again pushed back the deadline for completing the lower house elections to March 31st. Now, also, the Electoral Committee announced the delay prolonging political crisis in the country, also facing drought and an insurgency. So we know that country has really been facing insurgencies for a while. Also now, all elected representatives will be sworn into office in Mogadishu, the country's capital, on the 14th of April, according to the election committee.
And now, still talking about elections, we'll also be looking at Zimbabwe, where the police have warned political parties against contravening the law, as all the parties will be treated the same way before the law. Now, that's the maintaining law and order when it comes to elections in Zimbabwe. The police also enjoined political parties to conduct their campaigns lawfully. The Zimbabwean police have said they will not compromise on security and on safety of the public, which is very important, and it's a good step.
And finally, we might just be keeping our eyes on Mali, now the West African country. The ruling military junta in Mali is to suspend broadcasts by French media outlets talking about international, RFI, that's radio, and France 24 television station. Now, the junta has said that the allegations of abusing the Malian army were made by the United Nations. Also, we'll be bringing you these updates and more, depending on what exactly comes into our crystal ball after we may have rubbed it to shine. But that eventually is the total package we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us on Report Desk Africa. My name is Bernard Akede. We hope that you did enjoy most of the stories that we fed you with today.
Yes, and my name is Blessings Mosugu. Thank you very much for joining us. See you again next week on Report Desk Africa.